Good day and welcome to your favorite program. This is the People's Imbizo, where we go to different communities to talk to different communities about some of the challenges they are facing and the society at large. Today we are being hosted by Unisa, and we are talking to people about some of the issues that men face. With me on the panel today, on my far right we have Steve Litsiki from SANEC Civil Society Forum. Next to that we have Mabalani Mfundisi, who is from Ubuntu Initiative and Show Me Your Number. Next to him we have Bongani Ngomani from SA Men of the Year. After that we have Meshak Kekana, who is from Dads in the Picture. And right next to me we have Emmanuel Maema, who's from Mifosa's Foundation. And joining us in the audience we have Archbishop Dr. Mbulelo Deise, who's from Takuani Rime. We're going to be talking about some of the issues that men are facing and how society can pitch in to help. My name is Masichaba Dlamini. Starting with you, Emmanuel, we'd just like to find out the thought process behind where we are, the different foundations. What call did you see that men need to discuss issues that they're facing?
Thank you, Masichaba. Initially, men, they are facing a lot of challenges in the society, and their key challenges being that they are unable to voice them out, and that it brings a problem to them, because at a later stage you discover that they revolved to a bit more abusive approach. So in that regard, men really do have those challenges. But now the other element to find that is that even when they go to our police station or engage other parties that can be able to help them, they've just been told that as a man, you can't be complaining about those things. You need to be strong. So the issue of them, they say, yes, even though I wanted to be strong, but how do you expect me to be strong? Because now most of my rights have been abused. And you realize that most of the people who are highly abused initially is men. But the challenge is that they are unable to voice those things out. Even when they are seated with their friends, they are unable to tell them that, you know what, I've got problems even at home. Maybe my wife just left me, or maybe they just swear at me and so forth, because men, they have a problem of not disclosing their challenges that they are having.
Just to hold on from our panel, I'm just going to try to rope in the Archbishop Doctor. We'd just like to find out how the establishment of the Men's Parliament came into effect.
Thanks very much for having me. We started by having dialogues such as this one around the country, and later we realized that there is a need for men's organizations or organizations working with men and boys to come together, share experiences, and also share resources. So 2 years ago we decided to form a Takwane Rime, a campaign. Takwane Rime campaign is now giving birth to Men's Parliament. And this Men's Parliament is all of them. Different campaigns, different organizations working with men and boys from around the country, where we'll be tabling a plan of action to say in 2 years' time, this is what we are going to do as men of this country, especially around issues of gender-based violence, HIV prevention, and all that. Because, for instance, not so long ago, there were cases of lesbian women being killed in this country. And I'm sure this whole country wanted to see our reaction. And I must be honest with you, we did not know what to do because we are not empowered. So this whole Men's Parliament, roundtable discussion in Cape Town, including the Men's March, we are trying to say to this country, please empower us. We are ready to do something about our challenges. As men of this country, we want to see a peaceful society. We want to see women moving around in communities 2 a.m. without fear of anyone. We want to see our taverns as safe places. I want to relax when I know that my daughter is drinking somewhere at the tavern, because I know she's safe. I must not worry about the tavern itself, because I can't change young people that are still enjoying life. But I want to make sure that my daughter is safe. That's what we want to see. But we can't do that if men are not empowered. So this whole campaign, we're trying to ensure that we're empowered, we're equipped, including with resources, so that if something happens in deep kloof, at least men of that area, especially a men's forum, they're able to respond without being a vigilante or Boko Haram type of a movement. But we want to respond, we want to equip each other. We also want to say to other men, especially within churches, to say, but you can't cover up crime, Bishop. Report crime. This child was raped, report it. It's a crime. Do not negotiate crime. So that's what we want to do.
Just moving back to our panel, Mabalani, I wanted you to please just touch on me the challenges that the society faces and how men can play an active role in these challenges, not forgetting the challenges that men face themselves. So maybe you could just start on the challenges that you see men facing and how they can respond to some of the challenges the society faces at large.
Well, as politicians always say, and we all agree with them, that South Africa is confronted with triple challenges of poverty, inequality, and joblessness. So those issues affect and impact on men, the way we have been socialized, and it's around ensuring that we adjust to the new reality that is there. And this reality is also how that which we learned at a young age is now changing. It has turned on its head. So it's to ensure that if you are a man, you are not working, you have a wife, there is nothing wrong with that. It's not about self-esteem or anything like that, because the conditions sometimes are, in terms of your economic challenges and how to cope. As the colleague has indicated, it's really getting men to get out of their cocoons, understanding and respecting that we are living in the era we are living in, and we need to find our voices. But in finding our voices, it's not to mete out violence in order to showcase that we are better, we are better people. So yeah, politically as well, I mean, people must go to their meetings, discuss and agree or disagree about their preferences, but there shouldn't be a fight. There'll be one politician and they'll come and go. But it's also at the local level as well. People get voted in from churches to crutches. So we need to accept the realities of what we exist in. So yeah, for us, things are not the way we were socialized, and we need to ensure that we accept how things are without necessarily resorting to violence as the arbiter of the challenges that we confronted with.
Do you see vulnerability being an issue to men, them allowing themselves to be vulnerable, whether it be family, at work, in the society, in the community? Is vulnerability for men an issue?
Vulnerability is an issue. After all, we are all human beings, and we are made differently. Other people have the ability to withstand challenges, and other people just can't, take it. People kill themselves because they are confronted with challenges that could be easily solved by talking to someone. And talking to someone doesn't make the problems go away, but at least you are in a society of people who understand, who are, who take along the pain that you actually feel. So, but that being vulnerable does not necessarily, it's not a license for you to be violent. It's not a license for you to behave in a manner that we do not expect of anyone. As the bishop was saying, people are socialized not to understand issues of different sexual orientation. You may not understand it, but it's just how things are, and you need to, take, along with how people have made those particular choices, and there is nothing wrong around that. So things that we disagree with, things that make us feel weak, and sometimes we're human, we will feel weak, must not be resolved through resorting to violence.
And just bringing you, Steve, Steve, at grassroots levels, what does men's parliament mean to a layman? Because we noticed in the documents that you have that it's going to be at a national point, parliament is going to be held regionally and so forth, and that maybe local branches will meet more often. Grassroots level, unpack this for us. What does men's parliament mean?
Thank you so much. There are a couple of things that we need to take in consideration. First, from the perspective of the National AIDS Council, we have launched this year what we call the National Strategic Plan on HIV, TB, and STI. And part of it is to look at how do we prevent new infection, how do we prevent gender-based violence, how do we prevent all the social ills. Now, here we are, men's sector is leading the national men's parliament. At a grassroots level, that means we are changing the social norms. We are en route to challenge some of the narrative. As Mabalani says, as Archbishop has said, there's been this narrative that we're socialized around. But what is this narrative that we need to change? It means all of us, our attitude, our behavior must change. And also the way we act, whether physically, whether emotionally, whether sexually, we want changes that also protects a new narrative of the future generation, but also of the current generation. But what also this parliament means, it means unity. It means bringing in South Africans in all their diversity, whether heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, it does not matter. Coming together and saying, how do we want to change our reality economically, socially, and politically as well? And for me, a lay person on the grassroots can be able to go and access services, health services. We want men to go for health services without being judged. And even if you come across a female health worker, you don't fear because it's a health worker. We want men to be able to say, I'm able to look at options beyond seeking job. Can I get opportunities to create job? We want men to play a role in the family that builds the family, not just from a head perspective, but from a perspective of sharing responsibility. Women's empowerment, women's emancipation does not mean that down with men. No, it means that there's that equity, there's that equality, there's that sharing of responsibility. And those are the things that will speak to our current narrative, and that will speak to how we look at changing the discourse. Those are the things that will prevent HIV infection. Those are the things that will prevent gender-based violence, and that we live in harmony and peace. So part of the security, what Archbishop says, we want women, if I walk at night and I come across a person or a man that comes towards me, we fear, and I'm thinking, what's going to happen, right? We want people to live in peace in our own homes. Nobody worrying that I'm going to be strangled, somebody is going to come in and break into the house. We want peace in society. And for me, this is what Dakwani Rime means. This is what men's parliament means. It means that we must act. If we see inequality, if we see challenges in our community, or if we see bullying and violence, it means we act. Your action as a person in the ground level will mean a lot.
And then Steve, is there a feminist approach to this? Are we more liable to see more women organizations, or is it men speaking for men and somewhere in the midst they will add a woman? Or is there some sort of plan to make sure that women are included as much as men are included?
You see, the good thing about a feminist approach speaks about gender equality, and it's a shared goal, whether it's from a female or women perspective or from a male perspective. And I think we have the history of standing up, and we recognize the 1956 women who stood up. And I think there's quite a lot of feminists today that still stand up. What we're also seeing, it's emerging men's voices, and that are fighting for gender transformation, not just from a perspective of men saying, I'm a man and I'm against 1, 2, 3, but it's about the belief, it's about the will, and it's about the action that says, as men, we've got a role to play to ensure there's gender equality. And I think that reality that we need to nurture. as well. We've got men who care. We've got men who are concerned about the reality now, who are concerned about gender-based violence, who are not violent themselves, but there's also the crop of men that lives out there who are violent, who are angry, who are hungry, and so forth. So how do we then capitalize with the current crop of men that are standing up and nurture the effort? But also, how do we work with the very same men who wants to change the discourse? So for me, I'm of the view that if we look at everything from a gender transformative point of view, regardless of sex of an individual, whether it's male, female, or intersex, or transgender, and so forth, for me, regardless of a sex or gender of a person, we look at gender transformation to speak about the roles, to speak about the identity, the expression, and speaking about equality and equity. And that must be applied.
And then, Bongani, coming to you, one would wonder, is there a need for such a movement in a world that is dominated by men, whether it be at home, in the workplace, and so forth? One would wonder, why are we advocating for the gender that already has supremacy? What would your take be on that?
Our view is that in dealing with social transformation generally, you need all forces to be in agreement. You need all genders to be in agreement. So we are saying gender issues are not only women's issues, because there's that distortion in the public discourse that if you talk about gender, we are talking only women empowerment. But I think Steve has articulated it very well, that if you're talking gender issues, you're talking social harmony, you're talking even gender harmony between men and women, we are talking gender harmony in the society as a whole. So I'm from also an organization called Social Development Men's Forum, which is an arm of government. So what we realized since 2012, we have been having engagements with men throughout Gauteng. And in those engagements, what came out clear and loud is that we are brushing men with the same brush. We are the message we are communicating to men as government is that you are an abuser, stop abusing. You are violent, stop violence, you know. Then when you do that, you lose the audience of men who are not abusers, who are not violent. Then we said, perhaps let us start a movement that will make good men to remain good, you see, or good men to progress, to be great. And that's why the concept of SA Men Awards came about, to encourage those that are good to remain good, but also those that are struggling, those that are bad, those that are having challenges. Nobody wants to be bad, I believe. Everybody wants to live a progressive, peaceful life. So those that are finding themselves oppressed by whatever is oppressing them, leading them to do wrong things, at least to have a positive frame of reference, to say, if they are talking about a good man, that is the reference. You know, so if I want to be a better man, a better person, I should strive to be like him. Because the society was starting to believe that there is no good man in the society. All men are wrong, no, all men are trash, all men are not good. And we are saying, as SA Men of the Awards, there are good men, and these are good men. And young boys should learn from them. Men who are struggling, who want to change their life, should also learn to them.
And then Meshach, just coming to you, we know that fathers play a very key role in a boy's life. Even when you're a man, your father still plays a crucial role. Just tell us about your organization and the work you guys do and the challenges you see in families without a father, in families where a father figure is not there at all, whether it be an uncle, whether when a boy is growing up without a father figure, what are some of the challenges that you see that might also exceed into adulthood?
Greetings. Mema Shaba, the truth is when we started the movement that's in the picture, the name itself had to be right. We did a lot of consultation to find out exactly what were we trying to achieve. You know, with all the other organizations that we've worked with. I mean, we've always had good relationship with your DSD Men's Forum. We've always had good relationships with SANEC. We've always made sure that we become relevant. So the name itself, it says dads, it doesn't say fathers. The reason it says dads is that it's because it's inclusive. Inclusive in the sense that we have to accept the realities of today. Most children, I mean, there's studies that are done that puts between 65 and 60% the children that grow up without their fathers in their lives. So we have to bring all the men, basically. We're talking big brother, we're talking uncle, we're talking grandfather, we're talking the pastor, we're talking the neighbor, we're talking the teacher, because back in the days when things were not as bad as they are now, a teacher would be really playing a role of a father during the day when the child is at school. A teacher would also play, you know, a female teacher would play a role of a mother. So we're saying let's learn from those past experiences and the benefits that they brought in. So then we looked at it and then we said that's in the picture. Initially it was looking at men as parents and looking at boys. And then as we went along consulting with other men, then we found that there are men who are raising daughters. And then we ended up saying, how do we then leave those out? Then we brought in the men who are raising daughters. Thus, that's in the picture benefits both the sons and the daughters. And the idea is that, you know, on the same African notion, it takes a village to raise a child. We want the whole village. We want every adult man that comes across a child to play the role of a father, to play the role of a mentor, to play the role of a guidance. You know, I would say, Dedi Ngomani just mentioned the issue of spirituality. We believe that it underpins a lot of things. And in underpinning these things, unfortunately, it gets lost. If your father doesn't really hold you by your hand and show you the rituals, hold you by your hand and take you to church, then who must in this case? Yes, mothers do play their role. We appreciate it, we support it. Without the mothers, some of us wouldn't have ended up where we are today. However, it has always been the belief that both parents are the best parents.
We are talking to men about some of the issues that men are facing and how women and those around them can factor into the situation. We are going to take a quick break. Do not move. We'll be right back.